Really, really upsets me that I feel like I have so much control on so many things. I'm very well aware of myself, and I'm very well aware that this still sits with me and I cannot get myself to work on it.
Most of you know Karen as the global social media influencer and entrepreneur she is, but Tracy and Karen date back over 35 years.
I don't think I'm only going to be doing this from the perspective of me to you, but also me towards myself.
You can call me out on things, I can call you out on things.
From lifelong best friend to mother of 3, they don't hold back when it comes to confronting their shortcomings.
I've evolved with cutting out people from my life that would put me more in situations where I would feel uncomfortable in a certain way. I can't even describe to you, Tracy, what I felt, because I'm like, this is so unfair.
Yeah, and I remember that there were phases where I kept feeling like, why did anybody tell me?
Yeah.
And why are you telling Dana and you're not telling me?
I would be, I don't want to say like afraid, but I knew that you were gonna not approve.
If there's one thing you wish you knew before that you know now, and you could tell people, what don't they tell you? What is it?
They didn't tell me.
You already came on my podcast. You were on episode number 2 with Luch. We talked about business there. But I thought a very good angle for what they don't tell us with you, given the fact that we've known each other since we were 5, would be to kind of shed light on how you perceive my change and my growth and how I've seen your change and your growth. And we'll touch on the different aspects of life, only to bring to the attention of the audience that a lot of what I talk about is you're not too old, it's not too late, your time will come. And we've entered different phases of our lives in different times. And now that we're both 38 almost, I just turned 38, you're turning 38, 8 months from now. We have perspective on like the 20-year-old Karen, the 5-year-old Karen, you know. So I thought it would be really good to touch on like big instances and milestones in our lives, so it could resonate with some people that are watching. Okay, so
I think it's also what's also nice about this. Like I'm going to take it as like an exercise almost. Is I don't feel that we take enough time, I think, to recognize our younger selves. So I think. I don't think I'm only going to be doing this from the perspective of me to you, but also me towards myself.
100%. And we'll keep this like conversational where it's, I mean, you can call me out on things, I can call you out on things. We'll have it like really, you know, raw. And I know that's basically the basis of how you are in your character. So
I mean, every conversation me and you have anyway, we always say this could have been like a podcast.
Yeah.
So I think we're actually having a conversation that is a podcast.
Exactly. But I came across a post on Instagram today, funnily enough, it just made me hear it. I'm going to read it to you. And I think this very much sums up the theme of what we're talking about.
Okay.
Man only suffers because he takes seriously what God made for fun. The meaning of life is just to be alive. It is so plain and so obvious and so simple. And yet, everybody rushes around in a great panic as if it were necessary to achieve something beyond themselves before a made-up deadline. The secret of life is to be completely engaged with what you are doing in the here and now. Instead of calling it work, realize that it is play. And I love that because
so nice.
I feel like it sums up all the panic and analysis of our futures, where we're going to be in the stress. Am I going to get married? What if I don't? What if I don't find love? What if I don't get this job or this career? So now in hindsight, we're kind of getting where we want to be, maybe at different times. And it's quite important to shed light on the fact that you're not too old and it's not too late and your time will come.
You know, I think this is also a little bit, you know, when they tell you like something will come when you least expect it, or when you're least working for it. And I mean, in some things in your life, but when, for example, people are looking for love and they're actually like actively looking for love and are questioning why they can't find it, it's usually not at this time that you're going to find it. But when you get to the point where you're like, you know what, I'm going to love myself, I'm going to love my life, and then when this happens, it comes to you. So this is kind of what it's so true. You know?
But you know why that is? Because when you're actively looking for it, you're kind of in a position most of the time where you're not so sure and you're quite insecure about finding it. The more you feel that feeling, the more you're telling your mind, and your mind is that powerful, that has such control over you, that the insecurity that you're telling your mind on a day-to-day basis is oozing out of you, and you're not able to attract that. But like you said, when you're working on yourself and you're putting the energy on you ooze and you shine security and confidence, and then therefore the universe allows you to attract that kind of energy. That's so true. So obviously we went through different paths as kids. We grew a lot together, but then there's always phases where we go separately. Was there ever a moment where you felt like we were in completely different paths?
As children?
Children, it's hard to say, but I would say, and obviously best friends, we do everything together, but all these things. But later on, let's say, I think we're going through teenage years here. Do you ever feel like there was a point where, we had a bit of different paths?
I wouldn't say different path. Yeah, I mean, different paths, yes, because maybe at some point you were in a relationship, I wasn't. I was in a serious relationship, you weren't. But you, I would say the constant with you throughout my whole life is you've always been such a truth teller. And I don't feel that everyone at every point in their life is ready to hear the truth. So maybe at some point when I felt like, for example, when I was in a relationship that wasn't right for me, it would make me feel uncomfortable sometimes to be around you, not because of you, because of me, because I wasn't ready to hear the truth, which was, you're not meant to be with this person. And I know you so well. I know also how much you love me and how much you wanted the best for me. And I knew that you didn't approve of this. And you were always very truthful with how you would say things, and I didn't want to hear it. So I might have distanced myself, from these kinds of situations.
That makes sense.
And I would say it's more that. It's not that it's because even now we're in different paths in our life, but we're closer than ever. So I don't think it's necessarily about us going through different things. I think it's where I am or where you are in your life, and how ready we are to hear someone else's opinion and not take it as judgment, but in fact take it as...
Yeah, but now that you brought that up, because I just remembered how I was a bit bossy and I was judgmental. And I think that was the kid Tracy of how she's the truth teller was not in an empathetic...
I don't feel like you would be this person now at all.
Yeah, that's the thing.
All.
I think as I adulted, I learned how to change my
tone,
bluntness into empathy and telling you the truth. And I feel like as you grew older as well, you probably morphed more into... I know what, because you're feeding off of me as well. I know that she's saying things for my own good. I want to get her advice because Tracy's probably one of the few that would tell me the truth.
Yeah.
I think we both helped each other in that sense. I changed from being judgmental and I remember that there were phases where I kept feeling like, why didn't anybody tell me?
Yeah.
And why are you telling Dana and you're not telling me?
I would I don't want to say afraid, but I knew that you were gonna not approve or you know what I mean, and the way that you would say it,
exactly, I didn't have tact.
You had a certain way of saying things, so which always came from such a good place. It's not that, it's just that it again, it's more about me and about how ready I was to
I think it's both. I think
way.
it's both. If I had learned or understood empathy as a kid, which is difficult, I probably wouldn't have been as abrupt to speak as opposed to, why do you want to do this? Do you think it's the right thing? It was more like, no, I can't believe you're dating him. You can't be with him.
It's so funny because actually today I was speaking to Dana, and it's so funny that in different phases in your life, you want to be, the best version of yourself, and you get to know the more you grow, you get to know yourself better. And there are parts of me that are still very much with me since I was a child, and I think you would know this more than anyone. And it's it's basically it's not being able to confront you. Maybe had I also known how to confront, I could have told you at any point in those years. I say, Trace, I want to be able to tell you things, but when you come to me with this tone, then I'm not going to feel comfortable saying. But I couldn't even get myself to even tell you something like that.
Yeah.
But what is I feel like I've evolved so much as a person in so many different ways, but I still very much struggle with this. And it upsets me, it really, really upsets me that I feel like I have so much control on so many things. I'm very well aware of myself, and I'm very well aware that this still sits with me. and I cannot get myself to work on it. And I think you, out of everyone, would know how many times I've been in situations where I had to tell the person in front of me no, or just something that I didn't, or I don't think so, or whatever it is, but I would always beat around the bush or get myself out of the situation just not to face that person or that situation. And it's
knowing that feeling of having this thing that you still need to work on, do you have any way around it? Like, is there something you're doing to try to do better in that regard? Do you feel like you, at some point in your life, you'll be able to shake it off and you could flip the script?
Listen, I mean, I can tell you how I feel, and I've evolved a little bit from there. It's, again, you know me so well, so I feel like I'm telling you something that you know of me. But when I was, younger and throughout my teenage years, I always had this feeling where I wanted everybody to love me, and I wanted to be friends with everybody. And if I met someone, I wanted that person to become my friend straight away. That would be me including so many people into my circle. And including so many people into my circle would be exposing me to more situations where I would feel uncomfortable with having to say yes and no. That has changed a lot with me. So now I can genuinely count on one hand my friends and the people that are very much in my life. And these people, I will face less situations where I would need to, they're just a part of me. They're me, they know me, I know them. So I've evolved, if you want, with cutting out people from my life that would put me more in situations where I would feel uncomfortable in a certain way or brought in more negative energy, and I didn't know how to face it. So that I face it a lot less than I did.
But then when you confront it now, but you still feel you're cornered. Yeah. If I recall, if I could talk about like a big growth that you have made, is exactly in the department of trying to attract, because you did this quite often, you attracted the wrong kind of personality of friendships, mainly, aside from relationships.
I forgot about this,
it's so crazy, like you had people sucking the energy out of you, leeching off of you for their own sake, their own attention, their own insecurities, always want you to gravitate towards them, sit with them, talk to them, sleep over every single day, because they felt like they could use your energy to kind of recharge because you gave so much of your energy. I feel like that was draining you. Your lack of confrontation also didn't help, because you're like, I can't sit through another 5-hour conversation of him or her nagging. But I think at the very beginning, you having that people-pleasing personality gravitates people like that towards you. I've never had one person in my life do that to me. Really? And I feel like because I'm not inviting for something like that. With you, because you would sit with someone like, how are you? And I think, look, actually, you told me your grandfather always used to recommend the book,
How to Win Friends.
How to Win Friends. I'm rereading it now. It's my third time reading it, because, when you read it again, you read it in a different light. So How to Win Friends and Influence People. And I thought of your grandfather and I thought of you a lot, because you do this unconsciously, and it's a right strategy. It's a right thing to do, where you ask about someone instead of talking about yourself. Your mom does this too. You sit and then you go like, how are you? How are you feeling? What's going on with you? By the way, I really love that you did so and so and so. People like to talk about themselves. It's human nature. And when you give someone the importance to talk about themselves, they love you more. But unfortunately, I felt like when you did that, sometimes you were doing it in the wrong context. And you're doing it and gravitating these leeches into your life, I think you grew massively.
Maybe I created this in them, you know what I mean? Because like you're saying, those same people were friends with you and weren't the same with you.
Exactly.
They were this way with me because I gave them room to, I didn't put any boundary. I gave room to and maybe also it was wrong from my side because I never showed them that, enough. I don't want to do this today.
You can't change the people around you, but you can change you and your boundaries and what you would set forward.
Yeah, it's funny because I also, I tell Luge, I even tell my mom, because I'm a little bit like my mom. My mom is a little bit like that. She is a very strong woman, but she does have this trait where she's so loved, my mom, and she wants to give her time to everybody that it ends up taking away from time for herself or time for what my mom is almost, I think she's like 65, and I don't think my mom genuinely knows what she loves to do or who she truly is. She's given so much of her time to her children, to her friends, to her fam, to everyone, that she forgot what she loves. And I don't want that for me. I mean, even though my mom is a very happy person and everything, but I don't feel it's fair for her to be in this situation. And I definitely do not want my, especially I would say daughters, to be like me in that sense. I want them to feel very confident of what they feel and what they believe, and to be able to voice it very confidently. I literally pray that they don't get, because I don't know if this is like a gene or if it's a care, I don't know, but I really, really hope they don't get this from me, because it is something that I genuinely struggle with. It is something that I struggle with, and I have struggled with.
Do you feel like you maybe got that because, do you ever feel like you were silenced, or not really necessarily? I mean, I wonder if, like you said, is it a gene or is it because of a personality? What do you feel it was? Maybe silence from friends that were louder, maybe silence from your parents telling you don't give your opinion, don't say this.
No, definitely not. You know what I think it is? Maybe, I don't know. I'm actually just thinking about this with you.
Yeah.
But I'm sure it must stem from some sort of like insecurity. That I'm sure. And maybe when I was younger, I wasn't like really special with anything. I wasn't like this really beautiful girl or very like smart girl, or there was nothing that really defined me as a person. But I was a very kind girl, and that was, I think, what made people want to be friends with me, or I think I was just a kind person. And I confused kindness with overly maybe giving, and this is still till today. Like, and I get a lot of people reminding me, you being one of them, and my mom. Doesn't mean if you're gonna go above and beyond and take a piece of yourself and not say no that you're kind, you're gonna get the person in front of you in a situation that's maybe even worse, because you're not able to cut it from the beginning. Because I can carry on with the conversation, carry on knowing that I don't want to do it. Even sometimes at work or whatever, I'll get myself into something that I know from the beginning I don't want to do, but just because I don't want to say no, I don't want to upset the person. You end up leading them on. Yeah, I'll end up leading them on, and then in fact, this is not what I want to do. So, maybe it goes back to that. As and I mean, again, when I was like younger, I had Andrea, who was like an artist, and like everyone kind of had something. You were like really beautiful and cool, and everyone had something, and maybe I didn't really have my thing, and my thing was being kind. I don't know.
I would say, I mean, I kind of remember that phase when we were, let's say, the 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, but I know that when we went into middle school, and you were the most popular girl in the class, and everyone gravitated towards you. And yeah, maybe you weren't tall and whatever, you were a bit like pudgier and stuff, but it was you as Karen, like you said, like that character trait didn't change. Your personality gravitated all the guys towards you. They all had a crush on you.
I don't know how. When I look at my pictures, I'm like, what did they see?
I'm telling you, but they did. I remember that they all, and I remember I used to struggle with guys a lot. I used to be like, why doesn't he have a crush on me? And I used to cry. And I can't believe it. And my personality of being insecure, which actually it's so weird how it goes back to that young, it oozes. So no matter what I looked like, I could have been taller and skinnier or whatever, but because I was insecure about, why doesn't he have a crush on me? And you were just more like, whatever, I know they all like me kind of like attitude. With the kindness and the sweetness of who you were.
Maybe because it goes back to this. It goes back to you being the pretty girl who gets guys, and this is who you are, From when you were young, Tracy's the pretty girl. When she walks in a room, people are going to look at her. Parents are going to be like, "Smallah shو حلوة," and and when you're not that, for a moment,
I don't know what to do with myself.
You don't know who you are, So it goes back to that, what you're not labeled as, but what you're told so much that it becomes part of your identity. And when it's taken away from you, even if it's in an instant, you're a bit shaken by like, okay, now what? If I'm not this, then who am I? So
that very much falls under the growth mindset concept of how the A student has always been told you're the best, you're amazing, you're doing great. And then the minute you put them in the real world and they have to fail for the first time, they don't know what to do with themselves. So they end up taking an employee job to do the job right, to do what they need to do and not take a single risk because of that fear of not knowing what to do with yourself, because you're not told you're amazing for the first time. You notice half of the people we know that were A students in class have the most basic jobs so that they can do everything right without taking any risks. And when you're used to taking risks, when you're used to failing, you kind of like, okay, whatever, what's going to happen?
I know what's happening next. I know what's coming
next.
Yeah,
I know. It's what's new. And one more failure, one more thing, you know? That's interesting.
And, you know, this is also something that I feel now with, like, because I'm also seeing a lot with what's happening in Lebanon, people that are, like, showing, you know, the real face of the Lebanese people with everything that they're going through, how resilient, you know, they are and how much they're able to take in. And this is true. If someone else, you know, who lived a more stable life in a stable country were to face one of the things that Lebanese people are faced with, they would be very, very uneasy and afraid and concerned with how to deal with things. Whereas, and even me, I've been outside of Lebanon for so long, so I'm not as comfortable as someone who's living in Lebanon with things that are happening in Lebanon. And I see it, like, I would be in panic mode and my mom would be looking at me like, are you
calm self?
Yeah, like, this is just another day, you know? So it's that. Also, it's being faced with harsh realities that make you stronger in a lot of ways as well.
So I had to, being that girl that I was counting a lot on what I looked like when I was younger, I put very little effort in trying to be intelligent when I was a kid. So I didn't really study much. I used to cheat off exams and whatever, until it was a pivotal point and it really hit me hard, and I didn't get into the university that I wanted to get into when all of you guys did.
This was a big slap in the face.
That hurt. Like, that was almost like I can't get away with it anymore. Like, it was one thing to cheat off of Karen's test, cheat off of this guy's test, and I'm getting away with everything. But there was that one pivotal point where I took it for granted that we're all going to be in university together, and then you got accepted to one, and I I didn't get accepted. It shattered me. And I think that was the first moment or pivotal point where I felt I need to do better. I need to prove that I'm intelligent, that I'm smart, that I have a lot to offer. And when I was in university, nobody knew me there. Everyone would look to me to cheat off of my exams. Like, that's how much I changed. Exactly. Since when do people want to look at my test paper? Because I didn't want to be that person anymore. So that was a huge pivotal point for me. Was there a pivotal point for you when you, whether it was from school to university or whether it was later, where you're like, no, enough is enough? Where big growth happened after that one milestone or one pivotal point?
It was more, I think, in a personal aspect of my life, and I would
like
say
relationship?
In the relationship, because I think being in this, you know, I've spoken about this several times before, but being in, like, this toxic relationship is also a result of
people pleasing.
Of, okay, I'm in this ugly, but I can take it. But I can't upset the person in front of me. I can handle it. I can be upset. It's fine. But not the person in front of me, God forbid. And that, I took it in and I took it in and I took it in until it was, you know, it's dangerous at some point. And then I remember I'm like, that I'm done. You know, I am done with being who another person wants me to be, for them to be comfortable. I'm done with forgetting about who I am. I'm done with that self-doubt of who I'm done. And I remember that very much. I mean, now I say I'm done like it was an easy thing. It was not an easy thing. You know more than anyone. It was a real process. I tried to leave several times, but I kept coming back. I was in situations where I would, like, leave this situation, I wouldn't even get home. On the way home, I'd be like, oh my God, what did I do? No, I need to go back. And so I've been in situations where it was really horrifying, where I was looking at myself from the outside almost and be like feeling so sorry for that girl, you know, like, who is that girl and what is she, why is she putting herself in this situation? She really doesn't need to. And so I have been put in all the in several situations like that. But I do remember getting to the point where I'm like, I'm never going back to this. And that I can guarantee you that I will. I can't even tell you how much never, like never.
You know, most people think that when someone gets into such a toxic relationship, an abusive relationship, there must have been something wrong in her childhood or in her family or in her support system. And you were very well surrounded by your parents, by your siblings, very much loved and pushed and advocated for by your friends. So it's not the truth that you have to have went through something so traumatizing. Let's analyze her childhood for you to have walked accidentally into a toxic relationship, right? I mean, tell me.
No, I'm just thinking of something which kind of links your pivotal moment with mine a little bit, and which is going back to what you're saying a little bit, which is, I think at the time, whether it was me or you, there was lack of information, and there was a lot of labeling. So the only way someone would measure the intelligence at the time was what university did they get into. That was who was intelligent versus who wasn't. Okay, a bad person in a relationship, at least this is what we were told, is a cheater. Cheater, that's the worst. So I remember telling myself many times, but you know what, at least he loves me. At least
he doesn't look at other women.
I didn't know what it meant to truly love. I used to think this was love. He loves me so much and he doesn't cheat on me. So it's not that bad.
He's just jealous and possessive and he loves me.
Yeah, that's out of like love. It's not out of... But today we know so much more, with social media, with movies, with stories, with real stories, with people sharing, their life stories. We know actually you're not going to feel you're stupid because you didn't get into university. You have so many other ways to prove that you are smart to yourself and to others. And, you measure intelligence in so many various ways today. And you know that. And my children know that. Same thing with me, with relationships. There are so many wrongs. There are so many red flags. Did we even know what red flag meant then? It was not even a term. It wasn't something that you would look out for. So I think it was that also that was lacking for us at the time.
We didn't have access to that information.
We didn't have access to that information.
Yeah. So going back to the idea that I had so much to prove. So I ended up finishing university, graduated, got an offer to get into finance, and I started working at 20, turning 21. Back then, I found early independence and I was working in a cutthroat industry, and I was so proud of myself because I felt like I kind of changed the script. But I'm wondering, because at that time you were in London, you did your master's degree, you got married early, and we'll touch on marriage a bit later. You got married quite early, 24, was it?
Yeah, engaged 24. Yeah,
engaged 24 and then married 26 or something, 25. Wow.
I know.
We'll touch on marriage after this point. But my question is, there was a period where I used to come to your house. You didn't have a career. You did not start anything. You didn't even know what you wanted to do. You kind of had an idea a bit, or some bouncing ideas off of Luch of what you might do. But did it bother you at all? Or did you feel behind when you watched me start my career and I was 3, 4, 5 years in and you hadn't started yet? Did it make you feel behind?
I don't remember ever feeling behind. Maybe I felt...
Did you feel pressure to work?
That's what I was going to say. So I didn't feel that I was behind, because I have to say, I might have definitely a lot of other insecurities, but I think in that aspect, I never really did. I never had this pressure of having, to work and do... I didn't have that. I felt like my family was... My mom always, since we were very young, my mom always told us that she wants us to be the best that we can be in any field that we wanted to be. There was no pressure that it had to be. My mom suffered from this with her parents. Her parents were very strict. My uncle as well was so passionate about music, but my grandparents never let him pursue it as a career until he got a degree in engineering. And my mom, same. My mom was so passionate about music. She was in a band and she wasn't allowed to do that until she was an architect. So my mom suffered a lot from this, that she wanted to make sure that with us, we did not feel any pressure of having to have a traditional job, but instead to really understand what we're good at and what we feel passionate about and try and make a career out of it. So when I was in the world of surrounded by so many people that were in finance or, starting a corporate job, I didn't want that. I wanted to be a therapist. I was studying, I had my master's in therapy. I was, because this is what I was surrounded by at home. I never had that pressure. And I remember as well, at that time where you were in finance, Luch, who's my husband now, who's my boyfriend at the time, was in finance as well. And I didn't feel that he loved what he was doing or that he felt so proud to say that I'm a banker, and he never felt, so I didn't think of it as like, I was so proud of you, and I felt like, oh my God, this is so difficult. How is she doing this? It did feel like something very difficult, but I didn't feel like I was behind. I just felt like, we have different.
But even if it was not you necessarily having to want to do corporate, even in like you are today, very ambitious. You have huge goals.
Yeah.
So point is, like, those goals and that feeling of striving to get somewhere, you didn't feel it early on.
No,
you only
I
felt it
later.
after.
Yeah.
So it took your action or your...
I didn't care before. Honestly, I didn't. I remember at some point, like, even lying to Luj, because I remember Luj really wanted, not wanted, but like he admired the women that
strives and goes after something.
And has like ambition, and I'm like, I wasn't this girl, so I would lie. He'd be like, so what did you do today? I'm like, oh, and I would have literally done nothing.
You used to get out of your pajamas.
Nothing. I would be in my PJs all day, like working around the house, like typical like housewife, and loving it. I was so happy, but I'm like, I don't want to be that girl. I don't want it for Harmoush. I didn't want to be that girl for Harmoush. So I would like be like, I went to the gym, and I wouldn't have gone to the gym. I went to the PowerPoint presentation, and I did like all of these stuff, and I'm like, why am I lying to him? But I just felt like I didn't want to be that, I don't want to say lazy, but that girl without any goals.
Yeah.
And it's so crazy when I look at that girl, that Karen,
and who you are now.
Who I am now. I'm like, I wish that I enjoyed that moment and not felt guilt, because now I feel like I'm in this, I love what I do, and I love how ambitious I am, and it comes naturally. It's not like a stressful thing, but I'm like, I want more. I don't want to do, I won't enjoy the little breaks that I deserve.
I mean, what you said about you wanting to do it for Luch, I don't think that's a bad thing. I think it's a beautiful thing, actually, that Luch knows your potential, knows who you are, and wants you to do better. And a lot of people might think, oh yeah, but like, why would he pressure her, and she should be able, and I don't buy into that at all. I love the fact that Wazen keeps me on my toes, and I love the fact that I keep him on his toes. I know it make him uncomfortable how much I keep him on his toes, but he says it to me when we're in good conversation, when he's saying a nice thing to me. He says, I love the man you're making, you push me to be. And I feel with Luch, and I watch your dynamic, he pushes you for greatness all the time.
Yeah, definitely.
And you do the same for him. Like, as much as you're not confrontational, you're very confrontational with Luch.
Yeah, for sure.
You're very easy to tell him, cut the shit. I don't know. Stop this. You don't like it. Don't do it. I wish you were like this with everybody.
I wish the way I am with Luch. I would say even with you. You are definitely, like, after Luch, you are the most person I'm confrontational with. I mean, at least comfortable telling you, stuff. You, Luch, definitely most. You, my mom, would be, the up there. Even more than my sisters sometimes. My sisters, I would be afraid to hurt their feelings. More than you.
Because they're Scorpios like my sister.
Maybe they're sensitive.
They're sensitive. So we like tiptoe around
Luch is
them.
so sensitive too.
Oh, Luch is Scorpio.
But I mean, I know him so well. I know that he's not going to take what I'm saying in a
You built that kind of foundation where he knows you're saying it to make him do better as opposed to criticize him. Yeah.
And then sometimes I remind him, I'm like, really, what I said now bothered you, and everything you've said to me, I've taken as like constructive criticism. You know, like, so he's quite sensitive. Yeah, it's fine. But it's amazing, I'm looking back now, we really have obviously gone through so much together and evolved so much from being like we still have, obviously, you're still Tracy from when you were 5, when you were 15, 20, whatever, but you've evolved so much as a person. And I also have to tell you how proud I am of you, because I see today, like, when was Tracy the girl who reads, who wants to who has such a nice stable routine in her life, who wants to constantly be the best version of you? Weren't that girl. No. You definitely weren't that girl. And now you're so mindful of being that person, and you've stuck, and it's so consistent. It's not like you went through a phase. Sometimes people go through a phase where they're like, okay, you know what, now it's me time, I'm going to take care of it. No, you've been that girl for, I would say, around a good 5 years. And it's amazing to see how much you've evolved. You inspire me a lot as well in that sense. And I think, it's also, they say, like, it's you are a product of the 5 people that you are surrounded with. I think this is also how amazing we all are together with each other, because we all, in different ways, I would say, like, you inspire me in some ways. I'm sure I inspire you in some ways. I'm sure Wael inspires you in some ways, and you inspire. It's so important that you're around the people that you look up to and that also look up.
It's so
to
true.
You.
Which goes to that my next point of what I wanted to talk about. Like, you ended up finding your path through entrepreneurship, through social media. It came to you, and then you were able to blow it up into something amazing. And when I saw you in that phase, like you're talking about how when you surround yourself with people that inspire you and who are trying to achieve for good things and greatness and be better people, it makes you want to do better. If half your circle are lazy and you're the smartest person in the room, you'll probably be very complacent, right? You wouldn't try as hard. So I think it's a good thing that I looked at you. It kind of pushed me to leave my finance job, seeing what you have done, what the possibilities of opportunity exist. When I saw the opportunity through your eyes, I'm like, oh, I can do this. I mean, I don't need to be confined into finance. So what you have done with your growth and how, there's a lot that I've learned from you. I'll tell you a few things. One, that it's never too late. You started your career. I even remember when you told me, babe, guess what? They paid me 5,000 dirhams, $5,000. I forgot which one. And like, I can't believe I just got money for this post. And I'm like, oh, wow, it's the first time Karen's making money. And you were, what, 28 maybe, or
28, yeah.
So,
yeah, I mean, you have been making money.
I was making money from 21.
Yeah.
And
I was
even
studying, and
you were studying.
Still taking money from my parents.
But that's my point. Like, the panic that people feel. A lot of people might be watching at 24, 25, 26, 27, and they still didn't find their path. They may have to still count on or depend on people. And although I advocate heavily for people to be independent, but even with that, it's not too late. Put one foot in front of the other. Your time will come. I learned this from your mom as well. Your mom completely changed industries at
42.
42.
After getting divorced and having 4 kids. You would not expect this to be a changing point in someone's life.
She has like one of the most successful catering companies in Lebanon, and she blew up that company at the age of 42.
Yeah.
So I remembered her very much so as I was transitioning and thinking, what am I going to do? Like, it took away from the panic. And now evidently look where I am.
Yeah.
Very comfortable. I have opportunity everywhere, and I feel that helps a lot when you're outside of corporate. It opens your eyes to opportunity.
And we also need to recognize, Trace, as well, that it is also a privilege a little bit, because the fact that I was able to study until I was 20, I forgot, like 23 probably, because I did my master's, and not have to pay for my own studies is a privilege. Not everyone has that, you know? So I wasn't under this pressure of, I need to pay my rent. I need to.
That was my issue.
Yeah.
I didn't have the luxury.
Yeah.
I mean, my parents weren't financially comfortable, so I could not do an MBA. I couldn't afford to do it myself and work. And not that I was super cool and ambitious. That's why I went to work at 20 or 21. It's because I had to.
Yeah. Exactly.
I had no other choice but to 100%. Work. So you're right in that sense, that it's a beautiful privilege to have, and I don't think I would have loved to have the opportunity. It's a nice thing to have.
Yeah, for sure.
But if you're going the other way,
I think the important thing is to recognize when you are done with that phase. Like, okay, I had to get this certain job because I need to pay my bills and I need to get my now that let's say if you saved some money, or now, am I ready to take another step, or am I just going to stay comfortable with where I'm at because I don't want to face change?
Yeah.
This is kind of, I think, where the entrepreneurship...
Sometimes you just need to get yourself on your feet. And it may be earlier for me, later for you, but I'm sure there's a point where everybody gets to, if you're structured and if you're disciplined and if you try, my try might have been harder than yours in one degree, and yours is harder than mine in a different aspect. But the idea is, when you get yourself to a place where now you can think, you took away the survival mode. I don't need to survive now. I have now a job, stability, some money.
Absolutely.
Now what can I do?
Yeah.
Maybe that doesn't come early, but it can come later if you let it.
Yeah.
That's the point. I think that's a very important lesson, that you need to make room for it, as opposed to play victim and say, but my mom never paid for my MBA, so I can't do what I want to do.
Yeah.
okay, I couldn't pay for my MBA, but I had to do a different route.
Yeah.
But then I got there eventually. I got there later than you, but I eventually got there, right?
And in different, and it's also not just career-wise, but even with, for example, you know, people that struggle with a healthy lifestyle, you know, I know that I'm one of these people that, you know, I'm constantly going through phases where I'm either on a very healthy journey, or I'm on a completely like binge, I don't care, I'm confident as I am, I'm fine. And so I'll go through this and I'll go through that. I'll go through, like, I work out 4 to 5 times a week, to I will not work out at all for months and months. And even that, I can sometimes give excuses. I'm busy. I have 3 kids. I have a job. I don't have time to put in for my like healthy lifestyle, healthy journey. No, that's not true. And I know that, you know, now I'm very aware that is, you have to make room for it, whether you like it or not. It's just that you don't want that change right now. You're you're putting it less as a priority. You know, it's up to you to decide where and when you're going to put it. So it's a bit the same, you know, it's a bit the same, like it's you deciding what is most important for you, and you either neglecting it or pushing through, even if it's uncomfortable, to get there.
You say something quite often, which is, I very much resonate with that. You always say, sometimes something's got to give, and something needs to take a back seat. And your health and fitness should not be taking a back seat. Sometimes your social life and your friendships might take a back seat because you're working on your career, your family, and your fitness. But a big highlight for longevity is the health and the fitness and what you're eating. And at the end of the day, you want your daughters and your son to watch how you take care of yourself, because you want them to take care of yourself. So you're right. And I think it's important to say, I don't think it's a privilege anymore for anybody to say, I don't want to train, I don't have time, I'm busy.
I remember thinking that way as well about smoking. You know, I spoke about this as well on my platform, but you know more than anyone that I've almost always been a smoker since, you know, I started quite early, actually. And it was me, and it's like, I like it. It's my alone time. I used to give every excuse as to why it's fine for me, you know? And any time I had an uncomfortable discussion, whether it was with Luch or even with my children, you know, because they would be very disappointed. They knew, you know, they're at an age now where they know how bad it is for you to smoke. And I just felt like, you know, I'm not able to stop right now. And I gave every excuse as to why I'm unable to quit. Until, you know, I think sometimes things also come with age, like in a good way. I'm like, I'm not getting any younger. I don't want to take years out of we have enough science now to show us that I don't want to take years out of my life and out of my children's life over something that I have control over, and I can say, I don't want this to be part of my life anymore. And this is literally what I did. I said, I am done. And I had a little scare, actually. At some point, I felt like I was coughing. I was starting to worry about cancer. And I'm like, I don't want to go through this. I'm young, and I don't want my children to go through. I kept thinking about them, you know, also doing it for them. And I did it. And now I'm like, how did I ever utter the words thinking that I will never be able to quit? And I did believe it. I genuinely felt like I will not be able to quit. I am a smoker. And now I don't even think about it anymore. It doesn't even cross my mind anymore. And in fact, I'm like, I judge who I was for thinking that way.
I teach this a bit in my fat loss program on the course. I have a section at the very beginning where I talk about the I am, the power of I am. When you identify as something, you will always be that. So when I tell people, look, now we're going to go through this phase where you're doing this program, identify as a person that doesn't want the piece of cake, that doesn't want to indulge in the sweets in front of them. If somebody asks you, hey, listen, here's some knefe, do you want? Like, no, thanks, I don't feel like it. Even if it's a lie. But if the words come out of your mouth and you identify out loud that way, you would tell your brain will believe what you say. You tell your brain that you don't identify as that person, as opposed to every chance you get, you say, oh my God, I wish I could have this knife. Okay, I don't want to look at it. Please, guys, I'm on a diet. Oh my God, I have 3 weeks left. The more you say that, the more you identify as a person that has no control, that doesn't know what she wants, that cannot reach their goal, that is fighting through a challenge, as opposed to, no thanks, I don't want it. I don't feel like it.
Yeah. It's crazy you say that, because I do that with my children, for example. And I believe what you're saying right now so strongly. And I believe that the words have a lot of power. And I tell my children every day to tell themselves that they are beautiful, that they are strong, that they are capable. And when a lot of the times they tell me, Mom, but I can't. I'm like, you can. I believe that you can, and you should believe that you can. But sometimes it's easier to not preach, but it's easier to
tell someone
to do it rather than do it yourself. Because I find myself, even though within the same hour of me having told my children that no, you can, and I believe, telling myself, but I don't know if I can. I don't know if I can. What do you mean, Karen? You just told and believed yourself when you told your daughter that she can. Why are you telling yourself that you can?
It's so much harder to
take it on yourself.
Take it on yourself. I mean, even when I do this with Wael at home, I'm like, there's no way I could do this. She's like, what do you mean? She's like, yesterday I saw you put a post telling people that they can. I'm like, oh man. He like calls me out on it. But it's so true. Adulting, okay? There's two versions of adulting. There's adulting where you find your independence, which I believe is a huge version of adulting, where you're making your own money, you take care of yourself. And there's adulting when you have kids and you get married. You're forced into adulthood when you have to take care of a family and children. Who do you think adulted faster between you and I in that sense?
I told you this a few days ago, and it's weird that I'm saying this, because you told me it was your birthday and you had just turned 38, and I know I'm younger than you by a year or whatever, but
8 months.
8 months. I love how we're like, it doesn't matter how old you are, but then we're like, no, I'm 37, not 38, and you're 8 months.
Age is just a number, 8 months, okay? Don't lie.
But I did tell you though. We were talking. You're like, I told you, oh my God, we're getting older or something. And then you're like, Karen, what do you, like, you already have your kids and stuff. But I told you, but I feel like you're younger.
I remember that.
And this was just like a few days ago, because I genuinely do feel that adulting, at least in my perspective, does come with more responsibility. This is what it means to me. And having children is a whole other responsibility game that, it just makes you have to become an adult. Like, you cannot sleep in on the worries. They're no longer just yours, So I think that I adulted.
You adulted
faster than you.
I agree.
But earlier.
I feel like it makes you responsible, I guess, a little bit when you're independent, but you're forced into being responsible for other people, not just yourself.
Like when I call you on weekends and I tell you, for me, my weekends are, how am I going to entertain my children?
Yeah.
For you, it's, I want to go on a hike, I want to go to the beach, I want to sleep in, I want whatever it is that you can do. I mean, I think you do it so amazingly, and when I look at your stories on weekends, I'm like, whoa. But it's nothing that it's not that I can't. It would just take a lot more work and effort to make that, and it might come with the nagging of the children, and it's too hot, or it's too cold, or it's too far, or so it's like more convenient for me to be like, let's go to the mall and watch a movie.
Yeah. Yesterday, I brought something up to Wael. You remember when we were all together the other day and we wanted to order desserts? And I'm like, okay, let me order. Yeah. Okay. So I went picking like all these desserts. We're all like on this binge feeling. And then you took my phone and you're like, what the hell? You're ordering 500 dirhams worth of desserts. Are you insane? You remember that?
I remember.
You're like, what the hell are you doing? And then you made a joke. You're like, you must be making money on your fat loss free head. What's wrong with you? Because you always knew I was irresponsible with money. Like when I'd make money, I'd just spend it. So I was telling Wael, I'm like, it's so crazy because Karen made that comment, and I always have to work on myself, knowing that, look, I need to learn how to, be responsible with money. And he said something that's true. I'm like, it's like 500 dirhams. To me, it's just like, okay, it's 500 dirhams. It's a lot of money, but it's not like absurd. And obviously to you,
it felt like a lot.
It felt like a lot. And then he's like, but Trace, don't forget that Karen has 3 kids. In her mind, when she's thinking about 500 dirhams, she's thinking about, haram, what a waste. Like this could be so and so. And then I thought about it. I'm like, right now, if I make good money, or if I'm a bit more comfortable financially, I would think, okay, maybe I could save a bit. I mean, I have like family I need to pay for, fine. But then I'll think maybe I'll get a better house and spend more on the house. But if I had 2 kids today, the first thing I'll think tuition number one,
Absolutely.
tuition number two, what they're going to eat, what activity they're going to go into, which makes you much more selfless, and you're working for them. So it makes you much more responsible with money because you're not thinking just about you, you know?
I mean, every decision that I make when it comes to spending has on the back of my mind my children, my kids. Is this worth it? I can get this for the children instead. I can get this for our family instead. You know, so I will always think that way first.
Yeah.
But I also do think that my mom has also been this person throughout her life. Like, you know my mom more than anyone. My mom, I mean, it's only when we grew up that we told my mom, you know, go shop designer. Like, she wasn't that person. She was always very self-sufficient with whatever it is. She never had to splurge or, you know, she always made very wise decisions when it came to her spending. And it was always us at the back of my mind as something that we can benefit from, something that we can, you know, grow and appreciate as well. So I think that I'm this person as well, because sometimes I tell you, I look around me and I see other people within my industry that are probably making, you know, the same amount of money as me, or maybe even less. And I see the way that they are, you know, that they spend, and I would be a lot more like calculating than that, I feel.
But you are like that.
Yeah.
And even till today, you're very like, you'd say there's no way I'm not going to put that money on this. It's unnecessary. You're not a splurge. Like, as much as you've made money, and of course you're knowing who you are and what you've done in the industry. Everybody knows that obviously you make money, but you're so good with your money. Like, it's insane. I learn from you, and I feel bad about myself.
Yeah, you are a spender.
I'm a spender, but I spend on stupid shit. This is the problem. Like, I wish I spent on designer
and
stuff.
Sometimes, you know,
I end up spending on, like, okay, I'll just invite everybody.
Yeah,
like,
I know. That's what I was going to say. And you've been in so many situations like that where I'm like, no, like, you're not going to come to my house and order food at my house for my guests. Like, that's not going to happen. But you will find that in you straight away to be like, it's fine, I'll do it. No, you know.
I don't know why. I don't know what it is, but I have this. It's a character flaw. But I always say, like, I wish I had something to show for my money. Like, I wish I could say I have this collection of watches or these bags. Like, I have nothing to show for my money. It just disappears.
Because maybe you're more instant, you know, kind of instant gratification when it comes to that.
Experiences and like things like that.
Which also are very valuable. I think it's super important to put money there as well. I think you have such an amazing record of the places that you've traveled to, and of course all of that has cost, you know, money, and you've gained so much from these experiences, which are maybe more valuable than buying a bag, you know. But I think there's also like a fine line between what makes sense to spend on and what is stupid spending, which sometimes you could find yourself you know, there. But also I think one thing about both of us is that you in some phases where you've had to be put on the situation, but today I feel that when me and you think of like how we want to be successful, we do want to make money, but money has never been our goal. You know, we want to be successful for so many other reasons. And
so that's a good one. How has success changed for you in your 20s versus what success means to you in your 30s?
I really understand the importance today of building a name and building credibility and building legacy, if you want. And that, to me, it goes way beyond the importance of making money. Because I know that today I can make money in different ways, but that will come at the expense of building a reputable brand name or building something that my children will proudly, you know, be talking about or wanting to work with. So for me, this is so much more important. And this is what I'm trying to build today. I want people to think of, when they think of, you know, not necessarily my name, but my brand name, which is my name, but, you know, my brand, when they think about that, and to think like, wow, this is a great brand that stands for great things, rather than, oh my God, this company made $1 billion. Like, this is not what I would want. And this is a personal thing. Maybe my husband might look at it differently. My husband might want, you know, for the brand to get to the point where it's, you know, valued at this much. For me, it's not there. You know, so I think maybe it's good that we're work together because we can combine, you know, my goals with his goals. But it definitely, I don't think if I were making triple or even more, whatever, the money that I was making today, I don't think my lifestyle would be any different at all.
I know that for sure.
Yeah.
I know that for sure. I agree with you. Money used to be a huge a success factor for me. How much money you make, therefore you're successful. But knowing two sides of the industries, like corporate, where a lot of people are in senior positions making very good money, I don't find them any more successful than someone that had the guts and the tenacity to start a startup where they're sacrificing and building and creating and making a name and a brand. That to me is, for me, that looks like success. You know, and like you said, I think we're on the same page at that. Success for me, if I look at where I am, is to build brand, to build a name. I'm obsessed with the notion of that, and I discovered it a bit later than you because I only recently started entering businesses where I'm part of a brand and building a brand from scratch. But it's such a nice and fulfilling feeling when you've created something of service or for the market, you know. That's success to me as well. I agree. Would you suggest for people to get married at the same age as you, or now in hindsight, even if you did, because luckily for you, you ended up with someone great, you have a great relationship, you know what it takes to put effort in a marriage. Yeah. But not everybody at 24, 25, 26 knows what it takes to raise children. I mean, if I look back at what I was at 25 to 29, I mean, I was immature. Yeah. And maybe it's because I didn't have kids. What came first, the chicken or the egg? But right now I look at my 38 and I'm hoping to get children. And I think I know what to do now. Yeah. I know how to raise them. I know how to speak to them. I know how to, be in a relationship. I know how much to give. Yeah. I don't know if I would have been so mindful of those things then. So my question to you is, do you feel like 24 is early?
I can't give you a direct answer to yes or no, because today when I think of a 24-year-old, I'm like, yeah, it's early. It is early. I don't see, however, when I look back at my journey, I don't feel that it was early for me. Not because of anything, but I think that I found a person that didn't prohibit me or, that didn't stop me in any way from living what I should be living at 24, 25, 26. So I was very lucky, and you know more than anyone, we were in a long distance relationship when we first started dating. And when I look back at my years in London, I was living. I was not a girl. I mean, obviously by respecting all the relationship rules that we had for each other, but that person that I was with was happy for me to enjoy my time, you know? And that is why I was not afraid. I was not afraid, not one bit. And I remember when I came and I told you, you were afraid. You're like, what are you doing? You're so young. Because neither of us wanted to get married young. Neither of us ever spoke about marriage like it was a goal. Neither of us. But I genuinely think that you cannot answer this question with a yes or no, or it's too early or not, or that there's a cutoff age. I think if you are able to find a person at any point in your life that is going to grow with you, that's going to allow you to grow into being genuinely the person that you want to be, and that the best version of yourself, then what's the difference if you're getting married at 25, at 30, at 35, at 40?
But you don't feel like if you have children, it could restrict you from doing things that you would have done otherwise?
Listen, I'm not going to lie and tell you that I didn't feel at some point when I, was, and obviously in my case, I gave birth to 3 children in a year. Yeah. So it was a very, very difficult point in my life where I was going through things that my friends weren't going through. So
do you have a specific thing that you think about that you could have done hadn't you gotten married or had children?
I did feel at some point that I was tied down. I did feel that I didn't have enough freedom, and that my freedom would depend on my children, and my children are newborns, and I'm not going to feel free until they're 6. I remember thinking, like, I have 6 years of this, whereas my friends were traveling and partying and experiencing things, and I wasn't. And I remember very well this feeling. I don't necessarily feel at this point that there's anything that I missed out on. I do think that God has a plan for everyone, and I do think that things will happen at the right time for you. Maybe had I been in that situation before, I might have taken a different turn in my life that might have not made me who I am today. And today I have to say I am quite proud of who I am. I'm proud of my children. I love the relationship that I have with them. So I think this was the right journey for me. Maybe for you, those years were vital for you to discover who you are. And had you had children then, you might not have been able to go through this growth process which you needed, So we're doing things differently. Now I feel like I love that I have this freedom. Because I have to say, I do feel a bit more free. I do feel that I'm in, my children are at an age where we can communicate. They need me for sure, but not in the same physical, needy way that a newborn needs a mom, And now I enjoy my time with them. They're my friends. Yeah, sometimes they drive me crazy, but I do have fun traveling with them. I do feel like we're experiencing things together, and it's it's nice. So.
Yeah, I think there's a beauty in everything. Like there's a beauty, like you said, in where you are, where you're my age, yet now you could start, living for you.
We look,
right?
Sometimes me and Luch have this conversation where we look forward to oh my God, our kids, when one day they're going to, let's say, go to camp, and we're going to have a summer for me and you, and we're going to go this, and we're going to party, and we're going to go out, and we're going to, we look forward to things like that,
There's such a beauty in that.
Yeah, which is quite nice. I feel like it's keeping our relationship quite young, adventurous, and we're still healthy. We still want to look good for each other. We're still in that phase, I feel like it's just different.
I think it's how you see things, right? So the lesson, I guess, is think of your life or whatever experience you personally have as a glass half full instead of a glass half empty. For me, I could say I had the privilege to do personal growth and to build who I am, and my personality is what it is. And I, didn't feel pressure to settle or, which is the upside of not getting married early.
Yeah.
So there's an upside to it. If you didn't have the opportunity to find love at 25, you get this option, right? And now I get to have children, hopefully, if God willing, with Wael, and we could have the time to, raise kids together, be mindful of how we bring them up. So there's a beauty in having kids at 38. But there's as much of a beauty, if you do find love, not to feel like you're missing out on life and opportunity, because that could happen for you when you're 38 and your kids are not needy anymore, like you said. You could live in your prime when you have money. I mean, in your 20s, at the end of the day, technically speaking, most people don't have money. It's not fun.
It's not the standard.
Yeah, it's more fun to live in your 30s and 40s than it is in your 20s, because you don't have money, you don't have a comfortable career or visibility on your career in your 20s. That in your 30s and 40s, you have a beautiful way to feel alive, right? And there's a beauty in everything.
More importantly than any of that is who you're with. It
could have backfired for you. It could have backfired for me too.
Yeah. If you are married to someone at 25 who's not the right person for you, you will suffer through your 20s and 30s.
You'll regret it.
You will be single in those. Had you been single in those years, not married, but doing what you're doing, which is getting to know yourself, growing, enjoying, experiencing, you would have gained so much more than being in a relationship with someone that was actually taking away from you. And same thing, you might think that you found the right person at 35, but that person isn't the right one for you. And still, no matter how much you would have grown, no matter how mindful you are, that still wouldn't be the right thing for you. So I think regardless of thinking of the age or anything that, or the time, or what, more importantly is it only will be right when it's with the right person. And it only will feel right when it's with the right person, no matter what the age is.
And the only way it gets, you can pick the right person,
is also when you're in the right place.
Is when you would have, when you built a bit of confidence in yourself.
Yeah.
It starts with your confidence.
Yeah.
I feel it's easy to fall into picking the wrong person when you lack security, reasons, when you don't know who you are, when you need pressure.
Yeah.
That's so true. And like you said, it could also backfire if you're single.
Yeah.
And you're not single the right way, but you're single, insecure, not trying, that's not fun, being 35 and single when you're in that position. It's only fun if you're really working on yourself, right?
Sure. And there's also something else, because you made me remember one thing that happened to me. I remember very, very, very clearly when I was living in London and I was undergoing therapy at the time. I remember walking to my therapist and feeling the sense of, I used to walk there, and I remember feeling physically the sense of oh my God, my life is so good right now. I'm in such a good place in my life. Something bad's going to happen. It is impossible that I have that many blessings. Something's going to happen. And I remember rushing to my therapist to deal with that because it felt like a scary thought, you know, feeling so happy, but being almost so sure that something bad was going to happen. And I remember speaking to my therapist about it and telling him like, you know, I'm in this amazing relationship with this guy that loves me so much. I'm living in London. It was my dream city at the time to live in. I'm studying what I love to study. Like, how can everything be so right? Something bad's going to happen. And I remember he looked at me and was like so, you know, clear with making me understand that this is because of the way I am looking at things. And he made me realize that I am choosing to see things as such a beautiful thing in my life today. I can easily be saying, you know, I live in London. I'm away from my family. I'm away from my home. I'm away from my parents. I'm studying, whereas all my friends are making money and living. I'm in a relationship, whereas some of my friends are, you know, I'm in a long distance relationship, whereas other people are like snuggling with their boyfriends and their, you know, and I didn't look at, I was seeing things so like, this is amazing, this is amazing, this is amazing. And it doesn't mean that something bad has, you can continue feeling this way if you are choosing to look at things in your life this way. And that was such a eye-opening and it's such an important thing for me to understand, because even today when I'm going through those, you know, phases where I feel overwhelmingly blessed, I'm like, you know, thank you, Karen, for appreciating what you have, because you could easily be thinking otherwise, you know. And it's
so spot on. It's so true. And I love that you touched on that. It's the glass half full versus the glass half empty. And you've always been like that. So this is also, and when you're asking me about marriage, like, yeah, maybe there are some things that I missed out on, but at the same time, I had children, I had life, you know. Now, yeah, maybe there are some things that I, you know, can do, whatever it is. At every phase in your life, you're going to have things that you can and cannot do because of a certain situation. You can be a victim of this, or you can be like, this is the right thing for me to be going through at the time, and I'm going to make the best out of it. And I really think, I mean, even though it's obviously an exercise that one needs to go through constantly, and reminding themselves of this is so important. And I think we're very good at doing this, me and you, because we've really like understood how important that is. And again, for me, it goes back to my grandfather, it goes back to my mom, and it goes back to, I think, to faith as well. You know, everyone has a different way of praying. Everyone has different. For me, even though, you know, I grew up as a very traditional, like, religious Christian that used to go to church every Sunday. For me, the way I pray today is not necessarily by going to church every Sunday. It's more really just sitting with myself and just thanking God. I go through this every day. You know, this one would be what people would say today is gratitude, but I do it through prayer. You know, I thank you, God, for giving me this. Thank you, God, for even as stupid as thank you for giving me my legs. Thank you for giving me the sun. All of that. And it's back to the importance of what you're saying, and the importance of also words and recognizing what you're going through at any point in your life. So true. I love it. By the way, sorry, do you want to ask a question? I will ask questions, but you can say whatever you want. Because I was also thinking of something. I know I'm thinking a lot of things. This is so good for me. This is therapy for me. I haven't been to therapy, honestly, in a long time. This is so good. I was, you know, at the beginning of our conversation, you were asking me about how I've like kind of evolved or grown out of being, you know, this, I don't want to say pushover, but someone who didn't know how to draw boundaries. Pushover could be a good way to describe who I was. But yeah, someone who didn't know how to draw any boundaries or was so afraid to like lose people because they didn't like me versus who I am today. And you asked me, and I told you one of the things was that I cut out a lot of people out of my circle, which is true. But something else which I recognize myself doing lately, which I guess is also part of that, is kind of not taking any bullshit, which maybe I used to before. And one of the ways that I'm recognizing myself doing this now is through my social media platform. You know that I've been on social media for years now. And up until this year, I have never once used the block button. Never. I never felt the need to. I never wanted to give that person enough attention. You know, I used to always think like, I'm not gonna, that person never bothered me enough to even go through the hassle of understanding even how to block. So I never blocked anyone. Did you also worry that they're not going to like you, that you're supposed to take it and you need to be the bigger person and not block? Was that part of it?
No, maybe it was more like I don't want to show that person that person like got to me.
Okay.
And genuinely, I never really cared to go through. Till today, I do not care about, anyone who I feel I need to block, I know for a fact is coming from them. I didn't do anything. I know very well how I treat my platform. I know how I am as a person. I know when I sleep that I have a very clear conscience. I know what kind of person I am, and I know that I have never and will never do anything to provoke anyone intentionally, to receive any sort of reaction which deserves a block. But today I am enjoying, and I have become a very active blocker. I'm finding pleasure in it because it is part of me protecting my space.
And your energy.
This is my world. Today, an Instagram or whatever platform is a reflection of my world and my space. And I am inviting everyone to be a part of it. Not that I don't think people get to criticize. Everybody has their own opinion and everybody can have something to say. And definitely not everybody should love me, and I know that. But everyone is also given enough tools to get themselves out of something that they don't like. I see something that I don't like. I might gossip about it with my friends, all right? But I will not follow the person that is bothering me or that is provoking me or whatever it is. Whoever is going to take the time to be mean to me and want to intentionally put me down or to mock me, you're not part of I'm not letting you into my world. I am blocking you. And you will have to take the time to recreate an account, do whatever it is that you need to do in order to go back and have the privilege to enter my world again. So that, for me, has become something that I will do, because I will not tolerate me being vulnerable in front of you and you mocking that vulnerability, or me showing you so openly and you getting to know my children, getting to know my home, getting to know every step of my life and my children's life. You don't appreciate it, you don't like it, get out. You don't want to get out, I'm going to kick you out. This is how I'm seeing it right now.
I love it. That's so where the hell have you been, Karen?
Yeah, I know.
Where the hell have you been? And I wish in real life you could also do that to certain people, but you don't have enough.
block you. But
you don't have enough people around you that deserve.
I know,
like your actual physical circle. I mean, I don't see that you have enemies or you have particular people that are rude to you. You have great people.
And I have to say,
but it's the social people that don't know you.
Social media has been such a blessing again in my life. And it's something that has opened so many doors for me. And you know more than anyone, I mean, how much I really love to share, and I love if I genuinely feel that I have made a difference in anyone's life. It gives me so much joy, and I feel like more importantly, this is what social media has been for me beyond, financially what's been also been able to offer me. I've grown so much because of social media. I've
built character.
Confidence and character because of social media and because of my community and my audience, and I'm so grateful for them. And these people that I'm talking about don't deserve to be mixed with trolls. The others,
Agreed.
So they don't deserve to be given the same love back and the same, they don't deserve and the same treatment. And by blocking them,
I love that. I'm going to start doing that.
Trace, I'm not even joking. It is satisfying.
I'm so going to do that because I'm very you're not controversial on your platform. Even with that, and people have to.
Again, I'm telling you, if someone tells me, and I'll give you an example that happened.
Yeah, it's not about the criticism. People can disagree with you.
Absolutely.
I love the criticism. Actually, you kind of have a back and forth. I don't agree at all with what you're saying, Tracy. And then I'm like, but this is my opinion. This is healthy criticism. It's the unnecessary trolling and mocking that we're talking about here.
And this happened to me recently, actually, when it's like a storytelling time. But I was in Ibiza with with Luch on a trip, and it was really like the trip that we were looking forward to, because you know more than anyone. We've been like really working so hard, and I know how lucky I am to do a lot of trips and to see a lot of parts of the world, but all of them are usually work trips. And this one really genuinely felt like this was going to be a me and Luch adult fun trip. And we were worried before, when we had booked that trip, we were worried because of the situation in Lebanon. We were very worried about being there and having our children in Lebanon. even though obviously they were going to be with our parents and stuff, but with the instability and the situation, we were so worried that something might escalate while we were there. And are we doing the right thing? And should we bring our kids back home? But no, they were with our family, but maybe there's nothing. But yes, and then we're like, they're with our families. Situation felt relatively, fine. And we, we traveled, obviously, with our heads, knowing that they were in the safest place that they could be, and with their families and all. When we were there, things started to escalate a little bit, and we started to panic. We were like, this isn't fun at all. We're feeling very worried. Our children are there, we're not there. And they started talking about like canceling airlines, canceling flights, and we really, really, really panicked. So we said, you know what, we're going to get back. We're going to take our children. We're going to leave, because we don't want to be stuck somewhere. I mean, I love Lebanon. You know more than anyone how much I love Lebanon, and but it's not where I work. It's not where I live. So I don't want to be stuck there. I want to be in my work place and my home with my children, where my children's schools are, and all of them. And this was very like quick decision making. But then it hit me when I was on the way going back. I felt so much sadness. I can't even describe to you, Tracy, what I felt. Because I'm like, this is so, can we swear on your podcast?
Yeah.
Fucking unfair.
Yeah.
We as Lebanese people have had to make so many of these decisions, and ugly decisions, where when are we going to catch a break? And that, I do recognize that I'm privileged because I have the chance to leave whenever I want to leave. But you know what? My family's there. My mom is there, my dad is there, my grandmother is there, my life is there, my childhood is there. And it is unfair, and it is painful, and it is hurtful for someone to take that away from you. So I felt, Trace, it literally like a needle, something that was going through my heart that made me feel like enough. Like, how am I making a decision? Now, should I take my kids out because of a war? And how many times have we made these decisions before? You know more than anyone. We were there when we heard the explosion of the Prime Minister. How many explosions have we heard? There was an explosion in
we had to go to the mountains in 2006.
There was war in 2006, and we had to decide again, are we going to stay? Are we going to evacuate? How many summers and years are we going to have to go through this? And I was sad, and I wasn't sad for me. I was sad for everyone that had to go through it. And then I started thinking about Syria, and started thinking about Iraq, and started thinking about Palestine. And why is our region a victim of this? And when are we going to catch a break, And while, again, I do recognize, I feel like I have to always say that for people to understand, but I do recognize the privilege that we have. But this isn't what I'm talking about right now. I'm just talking about the injustice of our people, people. And I voiced it, because so basically when we came back, I was opening a store in Lebanon, which I didn't get to see, because by the time it was done, I was on a plane out, and my family, I didn't get to spend time with my grandma's aging, very well as well. Like I didn't feel like I got enough of anything in Lebanon, and we left back to Dubai. And on my way, I was writing, me and my notes. Like I love to write things on my notes, and I wrote down how I felt and how I was crying, and I was crying so much. And actually, my mom sent me a message asking me, "How are you feeling?" And instead of me, because she knew that I was upset, instead of me telling her in words, I took a picture of me crying and I sent it to her. She's my mom, and so I had that picture on my phone. And then I wanted to compile, and share with my audience how I was feeling, and let them know that I was going to leave Lebanon because of the situation, and explain to them what I'm thinking and what I just told you right now. And I said the whole story. And I included in that picture a photo of me crying, the same way I included the beautiful moments that I did spend in Lebanon, because I wanted it to be a holistic, approach on how I felt and how of the experience. And while, obviously, I got an overwhelming number of support. I got so many people, I won't say a bad word, but I'm going to keep it in, mocking, me for how I felt, and making memes over my crying face, and not validating how I feel and all of that. And I just felt, again, like I am letting you in to my world and showing you my vulnerability and letting you know how I feel. And people started thinking that I'm doing this for the likes. check my Instagram and check my likes and tell me if this post is unusual to the post preceding it and preceding it and preceding it. In terms of likes, it's the last thing that I was thinking of. In fact, from the beginning, I had hidden my likes. It wasn't something that I was feeling so vulnerable at the time sharing this, and then instead you're making fun of it. That's why I'm like, block, block, block. You do not deserve me. You do not deserve my honest opinion. The same way I spoke to you, I spoke to them. The same way I spoke to my best friend from when I was 5 and my mom, I spoke to everyone. You don't deserve it. You're not my friend. So you're blocked.
I love that. That's clever.
Sorry, it was long, but it was...
it's necessary. It's important. And I think it's a huge shift in character for you to do that. Even the... I mean, I would say for you, even the way you used to speak about your following on social media, you used to track very carefully before so that you make sure you don't say the wrong thing or you don't offend people. And now you've shifted more, and this comes with adulting even further, I think. And when you're 30s, you end up feeling this, I know what's important for me, and I'm going to do what's right for me. You like it, you like it. You don't like it, fuck off, basically. And that's an inspiration, I think, for people who don't feel like they have a strong voice or that it's important for them to hear that.
I think people really need to know that this is genuinely how me and you speak.
Yeah.
Literally. Like, this is just
this is a regular Tuesday night.
Yeah, it's just the way we are.
Yeah.
Trace. And we're so lucky to have each other.
I know.
Like
we get very deep in conversation. Which is important because, like you said, it's almost like therapy, and it gets you to offload.
You learn from every conversation like that.
Yeah, I even things that you say that I know about you, when you repeat it out loud, sometimes it makes me to recognize and benchmark against myself. So, what's one piece of advice you think younger me would need to hear based on what I've become today? And I'll say the same for you.
You know, not to sound cliche, but when they tell someone like, believe in yourself and you can do it, you are such a clear example of that today, because I know you, and I know that when you put your mind to something, you're going to do it, and you're going to not do it half-assed, you're going to do it. And I don't think that you knew that you had this in you as a child. And I think it is so nice for you, to show that young Tracy, we did it. You did it. You know, that young girl that didn't think you can, you did it. And I think it's very important for everyone to truly understand the power of believing in your goal, working hard towards it, and being able to achieve it.
I love that. I just
but do you recognize that in yourself?
I recognize that. And I felt you were going to say that because I believe it wholeheartedly about myself. There's something important on what you just said about belief. Tracy,
because I have different advice that I would tell you at different times in your life, because there's also another advice that I feel that it would have been important at some point in your life, and it's for you to know that you deserve it. You being able to achieve something was something that I know that you faced insecurity with, but also you understanding when something good happens to you that you deserve it is at a different point in your life something I think you needed to hear.
And what would you see the context of that in which area of my life?
I think in relationships.
I was going to say
in relationships, because I felt like you had been through a series of relationship where you were put in a situation of self-doubt and almost like, this is what you're destined to and this is what you attract. And, while, with all respect to your relationship, it's not necessarily about them, but it's also about the way you perceived yourself within this relationship. And I feel like you are in such a good place in your relationship now where you know what you deserve, and when you know how loved you are by Wael, and you deserve that,
I agree with that. There was, we talked about this again the other day. I'm telling you, this podcast is like a regular Tuesday night for Karen and I. But you remember when I reminded you of how we used to sit on your porch and I would be bawling and crying and telling you, I can't believe yet another guy hurt me or doesn't want to be, or broke my heart, or doesn't want to be with me. Like, what is wrong with me, right? And I just happened to pick a pattern of men that were very alpha, that maybe didn't take my opinion or my thought process into consideration. I was the kind of person that would very much wanted to please the man I love. So I would do the things that he likes, making it, or almost believing that it's what I want, but not necessarily. You know, I didn't really formulate my own likes and my own opinion and my own personality in a love relationship. But I was stronger outside of that in terms of my colleagues, in terms of work, my best friend. I had more of a personality then. And I think whatever comes first, but in Wa'el, I ended up finding someone who allowed me the space to be exactly who I need to be. And I wasn't afraid of not being loved for who I am with him.
Do you think this is because you married your best friend? That really knew you for who you were?
No. I think it's because I have changed. I think in my 30s, I have built a lot of character and calm, and I know what I want now, and I don't care if you like it or not, kind of a feeling. In my 20s, I had more of like, oh shit, if I don't talk about this, or if I don't have this kind of conversation, or if I don't like this type of movies that are more intelligent and old, like, you know, I used to think that with one of my exes, like, I want him to believe that I'm interested in this kind of conversation so that I don't sound stupid, you know? Like, you know,
I remember that.
I know, you could easily tell Luch, I like chick flicks, Habibi. What are you going to do about it? I like dumb movies that make me feel dumb because I'm working my ass off all day and I just want, like, you know, light. And you're confident to say that. I wasn't comfortable to say those things before. Like, maybe it was still from that insecurity of me not getting in the school I wanted and whatever. Like, I had so much to prove about how smart I am. I don't feel I have much to prove anymore. Obviously, I like to work on myself and grow, but it's not for those reasons. I don't doubt myself, therefore I don't expect other people to doubt me. And you project what people are thinking about you based on what you think of yourself, you know? True. So, and on belief, and you said believing in yourself. I heard this recently. Belief is a skill. It's a skill to be able to believe in yourself when you can't see the light at the end of the tunnel. When you don't believe that you could have a nice body if you're overweight, when you don't believe that you could open your own company if you don't even know what you want to do, or if to have a product if you don't even know, or have a prospect. Having true belief is a skill that only very few people have, and it overpowers the anxiety, the comparison, not understanding what you want. Like, it really overpowers all of those things.
And do you think it's something you can learn? Because you weren't always like that.
I wasn't like that. I think you learn it, but you don't learn it because someone tells you, like, these are the lessons on how to believe in yourself. You learn it by taking action first.
Okay.
Even when you don't believe in yourself, even when it's scary, even when it's hard, even when you don't know what the hell you're doing. And your movement, it's like you with social media. You didn't know what you wanted to do before. You weren't sure. Maybe you didn't have a belief problem, but you didn't know what you wanted. But when you started making moves is when you became more ambitious, more assertive. You know what you want to do now. You like, the moves drove your motivation. It's not the motivation that drove the moves.
For sure.
I would say your biggest thing is how you took control of your pushover personality.
You think so?
I think so.
Do you see like, from your perspective, do you see progress?
You know,
I still feel like there's a long way to go.
Look, you know that I have told you off a few times recently on a few things that I feel like you could do better in the sense, but you've done one thing, that you've removed the problem. Not maybe you don't. That's what some people need to do. It's not necessarily like you need to change your personality. Just eliminate the problem in the first place, and you have really done the thing where you've eliminated the people that have drove you to that personality, which is your comfort. To, like, you know, I mean, for you to remove those people in the first place, plug them out, you don't have room to kind of,
that's
you know,
100%.
Sometimes you get one or two creep back in and it's hard, but sometimes you just need to remove the problem, remove the toxic thing in your life. And that's what you have done, which I'm very proud of. Second, I feel like you built a strong personality, like your character has shaped massively. I think it's thanks to social media. It's thanks to your career more than anything. You've built a personality in it. I know when we were younger, your personality was kind of overshadowed by someone with a stronger personality. Maybe sometimes mine, maybe sometimes other people. And now you just have character and tact, like, and you've always been loved by everybody, but before I feel like people loved you for the wrong reasons, maybe about how that made them feel.
Yeah.
And now it's about who you are, what you've built,
Yeah.
what you're doing. And
I mean, I definitely can tell you when I look back at Karen who was in high school or Karen at school, I don't think it would have even crossed my mind to think that I was going to be loved by people who didn't actually know me, you know, or be someone who's famous or be someone who builds, you know, who's built a brand. Like, absolutely not.
Yeah.
This wasn't me. You know, this wasn't going to be me. And
the fame thing is what throws me off. Like, who would have thought? Any of us, actually, social media and like people that don't know, you would have never thought.
I
It's
know.
amazing.
You know, also it didn't exist at our time, so we didn't even toy with maybe our children. Like my children very much know, you know, the world of fame and social media and how one person can get famous. They know it,
and it's easy to get famous now. You know, you just use your platform. There was no platform before. Yeah,
sure.
It wasn't an option.
It wasn't something that we even thought of.
And if you think of like if you think 10 years down the line or 15 years down the line, how would you want your friendship to look like? Let's say you're 60. What are your friendships going to look like? What kind of legacy are you leaving for your kids? And what's your relationship going to look like?
You know, it's so nice that I would tell you friendship. I want it to be exactly like it is now. I want it to be our group, the big group, that's still together, you know, like traveling together, doing whatever we still do together. Like, you know, I love what we have. I love it. It's so, you know, it's cherishable and it's rare, and we're so lucky to have each other. So in terms of friendship, I would definitely want things to be the same. I also feel that I'm so grateful to have a family that I do. You know how close we all are to each other. Our children are all very close to each other as well. They're like brothers and sisters. So I think this is amazing. I definitely do see myself, you know, there with them, you know, living with very close with them as well. Work-wise, I will still want to work, that's for sure. I don't think I have what it takes to not work anymore. It's very much part of who I am. However, I do see myself working differently. You know, I almost would want to be at this point like on the board of my company rather than be a very active
day to day.
Yeah.
And rather than a CEO, it's more like an investment kind of strategy.
Yeah. But I would still very much want to be working and making a difference, and you know.
Yeah.
Social
do you see yourself?
I don't know.
Sometimes I wish that social media, like, what will happen if there is no social media? What would I do with my life? But I started to see more and more of that, I guess, this year and last year. And like you said, like, I don't have this, we talked about this before, I don't have this urge to entertain people anymore. It's not what I want my social media to be about. I want to put out my work when I want to, how I want to, at the time frame that suits me. Yeah. And you're welcome to be a part of it, right? Before, like, that urgency to film everything, you know, to like take videos of everything. Oh my God, but
remember
what if I don't
post for example, every time you would come over, it was almost like we had a reality show with us. We had 24 hours.
We never take our phones out now.
I can't remember the last time me and you were together and took out our phones. You know?
I can't even imagine living like that.
I'll tell you one thing though. I feel like, I mean, this is also something that I get from when I meet anyone who's, you know, from my like online family or social media has been following me for a while. They tell me, like, you know, when I see your videos with your family, it just makes me feel so happy and it makes me feel so good. And I know a bit what they're saying because I get this through movies sometimes. You know, when I watch like a rom-com, and you know very well how much I love watching, I get the sense of like, I don't know, it's like it makes me feel happy. And I wish that I'm able on a very small scale to give that to people. So sometimes when I do content, you know, I do obviously do what I want to do, but I do think like, is this something that's going to make somebody smile today? Yeah. You know, even if it's not deep, even if it's not something so substantial, even if it's just a cute moment, will it make somebody smile today? You know, and if it does, then it encourages me to keep going ahead.
Yeah. Last question. What They Don't Tell Us is the title of the show, as you know. If there's one thing you wish you knew before that you know now, and you can tell people, what don't they tell you? What is it? Block people. I know how to use the block button.
Block them. No. What they don't tell you. What they didn't tell me. They didn't tell me that it was going to be hard. You know? I do think that a lot of the things that I have gone through, whether it's as a parent, whether it's in a relationship, whether it's in my work, they're hard. You know, most people have only showed the better, the easier part of it, or the rewards that you get out of it, because they are extremely rewarding, all of these journeys, but they're hard. And every day you need to be mindful that you want it to work, whatever it is, your relationship, you as a parent, you as a pet owner, you in your work. It is all hard. And I don't think people have emphasized enough on the difficulties that come with the journey, more on the reward, because it's always easier and it's always nicer to show the rewards or the highlights that come with it. So I do think that every journey that you go through, the harder it is, the better the reward will be, you know, and you need to work hard to play hard.
And you know, if you're when it's hard, if you look at it this way, if something is really difficult, most people are not going to be able to do it. And if you just work hard enough, you'll be one in the few. So it's kind of that challenge. Like, you know what? If I outwork somebody else, I'll be able to get the better relationship, the better position, the better job, the better parent.
You know, Trace, even in what you do, for example, I feel like I scroll sometimes and I see a lot of like videos on like how to get that body and how to do this and how to do that. And when I look at it, they almost make it look easy. It's not easy. Being consistent with your health journey is hard. The reward is amazing, but it is hard. And you need to, I feel like if you know that what you're getting into is hard, you know, and you need to put that effort, but once you do, and it is so rewarding, it's important. I think even with like, when I quit smoking, it was hard. It was so hard. I was thinking about it all day. I want my cigarette, I want my cigarette, I want my cigarette. It was hard, but it's so rewarding once you're able to go to go through with it. So,
you know, I made the promise to myself, whether it was for my fitness app, whether it was for the nutrition guide, the fat loss program, anything that I talk about, I never want to use the typical marketing strategy of, this is a piece of cake, 4 weeks and you'll just get this, and 1 month and you'll have this, and your body can go from this and this, and it's so easy with wall Pilates or whatever this crap that I'm getting served. I made a promise to myself that I may lose on sales, I may lose on customers. People don't want to buy, and it's not a good selling point, Care. And when you tell someone, this is going to suck, it's going to be so hard, so let's do it. Most of the time they're going to be like, oh, fuck that, I'm not doing it, right? So that's why people say, market in public, but sell in private. Say what they want to hear in public, tell them what they need in private. That strategy does work, but I promise myself, at least for me, because given my personality and how blunt I am, I will always tell you how difficult shit is going to be. I'm not going to sugarcoat things to make you feel good. It may upset you and it may offend you. And I do offend a lot of people who tell me, yeah, okay, but like I can't be independent for this. Or maybe you have time to go to the gym, but I don't have time to go to the gym. And when I say you have the time, don't bullshit yourself, people don't like to hear it. Yes, you're right. The truth is, anything worth having is hard.
I mean, even Trace now with, you know, I have a new puppy, and you know everything that I'm going through now. I mean, everyone talks about the joy of having a dog, and it is so beautiful and so rewarding, but it is hard. I feel like I have a newborn at home. It's harder than a newborn. I'm watching her all the time. I'm going back to having literally like a child at home, you know, and I think it's important for people to understand.
Just talk about that. It's like with Poncho, my parrot. Most people tell me, where'd you get him from? And the first thing I say is, don't get a parrot. It's fucking hard. He's difficult. He's high maintenance.
How much do you love him?
I love him so much, but
how rewarding is it? But you know what you had to go through to enjoy that reward, and what, you know, like,
and what it takes for him to feel comfortable and safe and protected. And birds are much harder than dogs because they're much higher maintenance in the sense. But it is, you know, it is important for people to know that what you have achieved, you've busted your ass, you've done so many sacrifices, you haven't gotten any of what you got easily.
No matter how big and successful you become, there is always room and always opportunity and always a need for you to go knocking. Not everyone's going to come to you.
Yeah, because people forget. They don't know what you want. They don't have time
they might
for
think
you.
You don't care. Or
Exactly.
You don't,
unless you physically, personally say it and push for it, you're not going to get it, you know?
Sure.
Yeah. Thank you,
so
Care.
Fun and important for me. I feel like a refreshed person to start the day.
Yeah. And I'm so glad that people got a chance to listen in on some important things.
I've been in, I've done a lot of like interviews on podcasts, but I do feel this one is very different to anything that I've done before.
Because I know you from back in the day, so it's, I could kind of dive deep into your personality.
Exactly.
So I'm glad you came on. Thank you, Cook.
I love you.
Habibti.